I used to love Uber. I know that sounds stupid now. After everything. But I genuinely did. I'd tap the app, watch the little car icon move toward me, and feel this sense of, I don't know, freedom? Safety? The city was mine at 2 a.m. if I wanted it. I didn't have to worry about parking or designated drivers, or whether the guy next to me on the subway was going to follow me home. I was 28, a marketing manager at a tech firm in Austin. I worked late. I went to networking events. I had a social life that didn't revolve around my car. Uber was my infrastructure, my freedom, my safety. I was wrong about that last part. March 14th, 2023. I remember the date because it was 3 days after my breakup with Derek, and I was trying to prove to myself, and my coworkers, that I was fine. Totally fine. Not falling apart at all. We had a work event downtown. Drinks, networking, the usual. I stayed later than I should have. Had one too many glasses of wine. Not drunk. Just that warm, loose feeling where you think you're being charming, but you're probably just being loud. I ordered an Uber at 11:47 p.m. The app said 3 minutes. I watched the little car icon move toward me, same as always. The car was a gray Toyota Camry. Clean. Smelled like those little pine tree air fresheners. The driver, Matthew, according to the app, was polite. Professional. Late 30s maybe. Glasses. The kind of guy you'd forget immediately, which is exactly what you want in an Uber driver. How's your night going? He asked as I buckled in. Good, I said. Work event. You know how it is. He did know apparently. He told me he used to work in marketing too. Data analytics, specifically. Customer segmentation, he called it. Understanding patterns in behavior. Predicting what people want before they know they want it. I thought that was interesting. I was tipsy and lonely and trying to prove I was fine, so I engaged. I told him about my job. About the breakup, just a mention, recently single. Trying to sound casual about it. About my apartment in the Mueller development, how I loved the location but the building's access code system was annoying, always having to remember the 4-digit code. He laughed. Said he knew the area. Drove there often. I gave him the code at the entrance. 4729. I said it out loud while punching it in. He could see. He was right there. I didn't think anything of it. The laptop was mounted on his dashboard. I'd noticed it when I got in, thought it was for navigation, maybe music. A lot of drivers had tablets or phones mounted up there. But as we drove, I could see it wasn't showing a map. It was some kind of dashboard. Charts. Graphs. A map with colored dots. What's that? I asked, genuinely curious. Some kind of driver analytics? He lit up. I remember that. How his whole demeanor changed when I asked. Like I'd given him permission to show off something he'd been dying to share. It's my own system, he said. I used to do data analysis professionally. Now I apply it to rideshare. Optimize routes, predict demand, understand passenger patterns. He turned the screen toward me slightly. See? This is ride frequency by neighborhood. Downtown peaks at midnight. The domain is earlier, around 10. Mueller, where you're going. Has consistent demand but lower volume. I leaned forward, peering at the screen. It was impressive, honestly. Professional-looking visualizations. Heat maps. Trend lines. This guy had put serious work into this. Then he scrolled. And I saw my name. Patricia Cole. Asterisk asterisk. Right there on the screen. My full name. My home address. And next to it a number, August 10th. Below that a note field I could partially read. Attractive professional lives alone, mentioned recent breakup, gave building code aloud. I stopped reading. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. My name. My address. My vulnerability. Documented, scored, cataloged like I was a product or a research subject. What's that? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Why do you have my name in there? He turned the screen back toward him. Casual. Like I'd caught him doing something slightly embarrassing but not wrong. Oh, that's just my passenger notes, he said. For safety. I track who I pick up, where they go, any concerns. The rating helps me remember which passengers might need extra attention. Attention. You know, some passengers are more vulnerable than others. Late night, alone emotional state. I like to be prepared, in case they need help. He smiled at me in the rearview mirror. A polite, professional smile. I smiled back. I don't know why. Some autopilot response. The same part of my brain that smiled at Derek when he told me he needed space. And I said, of course, I understand. I looked out the window, counted the blocks until my building, tried to remember if I'd told him anything else, if I'd mentioned Derek by name, if I'd said anything about my work schedule, my habits, when I was usually home alone. I had. I knew I had. I'd been trying to prove I was fine, and fine people make conversation, and conversation is just information, data, segmentation, vulnerability scoring. I didn't confront him. I was tipsy and scared and suddenly very aware that I was alone in a car with a man who had my address and a system for tracking women's vulnerability. What was I going to do? Yell at him? Accuse him of? What exactly? Taking notes? I photographed his screen when he wasn't looking. Blurry, overexposed, but readable. My name. My address. That number. August 10th. The ride ended. I thanked him. Gave him 5 stars. Some terrified part of my brain worried that a lower rating would trigger something, would move me from yellow to red on his little map, would mark me as a problem. I watched his car drive away. Gray Toyota Camry. License plate I didn't memorize because I wasn't thinking clearly, because I was in shock, because some part of me still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. Then I ran inside. Locked my door. Checked my windows. Called Uber. Uber deactivated his account within hours. I know because I checked obsessively, refreshing the app, trying to request rides from his location to see if he was still active. He wasn't. I also called the police. Austin PD took my report, asked questions, seemed concerned but not alarmed. Disturbing, the officer said. But not illegal. He didn't threaten you. Didn't touch you. Didn't demand anything. What about the database? I asked. He has my address. My name. A score for how vulnerable I am. That's not okay, right? The officer shuffled papers. Privacy laws are complicated. You voluntarily shared that information. He didn't hack anything. Didn't steal anything. Just wrote it down. I hung up and cried. Then I got angry. Then I started digging. I found the other woman 3 days later. Posted on a local Austin Facebook group. Has anyone else had a weird experience with an Uber driver named Matthew? Data analyst type, gray Camry, laptop on dashboard. Her name was Jennifer. 26. Graduate student at UT. She'd reported him in December 2022. Saw her name on his screen, same as me. Same database. Same safety protocol explanation. Austin PD had her report on file. They'd investigated. Found no crime. Closed the case. I felt crazy, Jennifer told me. Like I was overreacting. He didn't do anything, you know? Just took notes. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. That he knew where I lived. That he had a system. We compared notes. She'd seen more of the interface than I had. He'd shown her the full dashboard, proud of his system. She described the color coding. Green for safe, yellow for caution, red for? Well, she didn't know what red meant. Neither did I. But I could guess. We found 2 more women. Then 3. All with similar stories. Late night rides. Friendly conversation. The laptop. The data hobby. The moment of horror when they saw their names, their details, their scores. None of us had been touched. None of us had been explicitly threatened. We'd all just been cataloged. Rated. Mapped. The investigation took 6 months. Austin PD, working with Uber's safety team, reconstructed Matthew's database from his devices. The scope was staggering. 12,000 passengers over 47 months. A 50-point rating system of his own design. Not the app stars, his private assessment. He tracked attractiveness on a 1 to 10 scale. Intoxication level based on speech patterns. Friendliness, measured by willingness to share personal information. Home address frequency, how often he drove someone to the same location. And vulnerability score, a composite algorithm weighing intoxication, time of night, physical attractiveness, and whether they were traveling alone. 400 entries had detailed notes. Flirted, possible interest. Crying, recently dumped, emotionally vulnerable. Mention living alone, gave building access code aloud. He had a map with 2,400 addresses. Color-coded by safety risk. Green for safe, professional, daytime. Yellow for occasional late night, moderate vulnerability. Red for high vulnerability, frequent late night, lives alone, attractive, emotionally open. He reviewed red-coded addresses weekly. Updated entries based on new rides. Called it driver safety protocol. Said it helped him prepare appropriately for pickups. He never contacted passengers outside the app. Never visited addresses when not working. Told investigators he had no intention of acting on the data. He just collected it. For safety. For pattern recognition. For the same reasons he'd optimized customer segments in his marketing career. Matthew faces no criminal charges for the database itself. He collected information voluntarily shared in conversation. He didn't hack. Didn't stalk. Didn't contact anyone outside professional contexts. The legal system has no category for comprehensive private surveillance of customers for personal categorization. Uber banned him permanently. Lyft too, after we notified them. But Matthew still drives. For a local car service that doesn't use app-based platforms, that pays cash and asks no questions. He still carries his laptop. A reporter found him before his lawyer silenced him. Matthew reportedly said, "I refined the system. Better categories. More accurate scoring. The app platforms were limiting. Too much structure. Now I have complete data freedom." 3,000 new entries since the Uber ban. Austin PD's official statement. No crime committed. Disturbing behavior. Refer to civil remedies. The civil remedies, lawsuits from passengers who discover they were cataloged, are unlikely to succeed. Matthew's data collection was legal. His categorization system was legal. His continued operation is legal. The women in his database, 12,000 of us, plus 3,000 more, have no right to know we were rated, scored, mapped. No right to demand deletion of information we voluntarily shared in what we thought was casual conversation. No protection against whatever Matthew, or someone like him, might do with that data in the future. I don't use Uber anymore. Or Lyft. Or any ride-sharing app. I drive everywhere now, even when I shouldn't. Even when I've had a drink. Even when I'm tired. Even when parking downtown is a nightmare. People tell me I'm overreacting. He didn't actually do anything, they say. He was creepy, sure, but he never hurt anyone. They're right. He didn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But he built infrastructure for it. A database of women's vulnerability, their living situations, their emotional states, their accessibility. He did what any predator would do in the reconnaissance phase, except he called it driver safety, and the law agreed with him. I think about that ride sometimes. The wine, the conversation, the feeling of being fine. I think about how easy it was to share information when I thought I was safe. How the app that promised me freedom became the tool of my surveillance. I think about the other 12,000 women. The ones who don't know. Who never saw their names on his screen. Who are still in his database, still on his map, still color-coded by how easy they might be to exploit. The gig economy runs on trust without verification. We enter strangers' cars, share our locations, sometimes our destinations, often our lives in conversation. We trust that the driver is just driving, that the app is just connecting, that the rating system protects us from them, but not them from us. Matthew exploited that asymmetry. He used the access granted by his role to create infrastructure for surveillance that passengers never authorized and can't control. He's not unique. Other drivers have been caught with passenger photos, address lists, tip optimization strategies that involve remembering which passengers are generous and which are vulnerable. Matthew is just the most systematic, the most professional, The one who treated us like data points in a customer segmentation model, waiting to be optimized. I used to love Uber. I used to feel safe. Now I check every driver's dashboard. I trust my instincts. And I never, ever share my building access code with strangers. My name is Patricia Cole. I was passenger #8-247 in Matthew's database. And this is my story. If you like and enjoyed this story, kindly like, comment where you're watching from and hit the subscription button for more stories.